Good evening and welcome to the Hairenik Media Newscast, bringing you the latest headlines from the Homeland and the region, along with community news and more. At the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan outlined a significant shift in policy regarding forcibly displaced Artsakh Armenians, advocating their resettlement and full integration within Armenia with Armenian citizenship. He dismissed the possibility of their return to Artsakh as unrealistic and a threat to the peace process, effectively denying their right to self-determination and homeland defense, key pillars of the Artsakh struggle. Pashinyan reaffirmed Armenia's recognition of Azerbaijan's territorial integrity and emphasized that lasting peace will require time, cooperation, and international support. Simultaneously, Pashinyan declared peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan as a joint achievement rooted in a clear public mandate received during the 2021 elections and fulfilled by his government's policies. He also stressed that the issue of Armenian captives held in Baku should be addressed within the broader peace agreement framework recently initiated with Azerbaijan's president. Meanwhile, displaced Artsakh Armenians face ongoing uncertainty, with diminishing government support and no clear path for return as Azerbaijan advances its expansionist Western Azerbaijan narrative. Former Foreign Minister Vartan Oskanian criticized Pashinyan's stance on the Artsakh issue, calling it a dangerous distortion of reality and a denial of internationally recognized rights. He highlighted strong international support from the U.S., the International Court of Justice, and European institutions for the right of return as crucial to lasting peace. Oskanian warned that the issue remains unresolved and is likely to resurface in negotiations after Pashinyan's tenure. The Armenian Prime Minister continued to push back against the use of the term Zangezur corridor to describe a proposed transport route through Armenia linking Azerbaijan to Nakhichevan, calling it a veiled territorial claim and insisting the phrase does not appear in any official agreements. He urges international actors to avoid using the term, emphasizing that the accurate name is the TRIP, Trump Route for International Peace and Prosperity, as per signed documents. Despite Pashinyan's objections, Azerbaijani and Turkish officials persist in using Zangezur corridor publicly. When Pashinyan met Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev in Copenhagen, both reaffirmed their commitment to peace and cooperation on transport infrastructure, but made no public mention of Pashinyan's objections to the terminology. In Parliament, Pashinyan appeared to soften his stance, stating if they want to say Zangezur corridor, let them, and close further discussions on the matter, even while maintaining the phrase is not officially recognized by Armenia. Armenia's National Assembly has adopted a draft statement on establishing peace with Azerbaijan, receiving 64 votes in favor, 2 abstentions, and no votes against. Prepared by the civil contract faction, the draft urges public, political, expert, and cultural groups in both countries to avoid inflammatory statements. The opposition did not participate in the debate or the vote. ARF MP Saghatelyan slammed Pashinyan's remarks, claiming he fulfilled his 2021 promises and seeks a new mandate in 2026. In a Facebook post, Saghatelyan accused Pashinyan of doing the opposite, failing to defend Artsakh, abandoning national goals, and misleading the public. He warned that Pashinyan now seeks a mandate to make further concessions, including territorial handovers and constitutional changes, and called on the public not to be deceived again. At the Warsaw Security Forum, Armenian Foreign Minister Ararat Mirzoyan confirmed that Armenia is ready to sign a peace treaty with Azerbaijan based on a finalized text initialed earlier this year. He noted that while Azerbaijan has certain preconditions, Armenia does not agree with them. However, even before the formal signing of the peace treaty, there are ongoing processes aimed at fostering greater tolerance and cooperation, including on international platforms, Mirzoyan said. He acknowledged that reconciliation within civil society will take time due to deep psychological wounds, but emphasized that Armenia and Azerbaijan could share infrastructure as normal neighbors, moving toward lasting peace and collaboration. Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan stated that Armenians must stop searching for a dream homeland, declaring that the Republic of Armenia is already the homeland of our dreams. Speaking at a meeting with IT specialists, he outlined his vision of Armenia's future as a peaceful, democratic state with internationally recognized borders. Pashinyan stressed the importance of focusing on building and strengthening the country rather than idealizing an abstract homeland. During the years of Soviet repression, hundreds of Armenian clergymen, including archbishops, were arrested, exiled, or executed as part of a broader effort to suppress the church. Today, in the era of independent Armenia, those dark chapters seem to be resurfacing. Archbishop Mikhail Ajapahyan, head of the Shirak Diocese, has been sentenced to 2 years in prison, the first case since independence in which a sitting archbishop has been jailed, simply for voicing criticism of the authorities. Once again, we are witnessing the return of tactics once used to silence the church. The AR Supreme Council of Armenia has strongly condemned the sentencing of Archbishop Ajapahyan to 2 years in prison, calling it an illegal and shameful decision. They view the verdict as not only retaliation against a clergyman, but also political assault on the Armenian Apostolic Church, national identity, and freedom of expression. The statement accuses the authorities of creating a despotic system where courts serve as tools of power and expresses confidence that accountability for these actions is near. The Mother See of Holy Etchmiadzin announced it will seek legal and international recourse to defend Archbishop Ajapahyan. The church condemned the verdict as politically motivated and part of a broader anti-church campaign, calling it a violation of freedom of speech, religion, and democratic principles. Armenia faces a military personnel shortage, Deputy Defense Minister Arman Sarkisyan told Parliament, weeks after a proposal to reduce compulsory service from 24 to 18 months. The armed forces rely heavily on reservists for frontline duties, leading to a new bill increasing penalties for call-up evasion. Critics, including opposition MP Dikran Abrahamyan, accused Prime Minister Pashinyan of pushing reforms to gain electoral support and appease Azerbaijan, which demands Armenia's demilitarization. Concerns have grown after the government announced a more than 15% cut in defense spending for next year, even as Azerbaijan boosts its military budget. The European Court of Human Rights has ordered Azerbaijan to submit a report by November 4 detailing the health and detention conditions of 23 confirmed Armenian prisoners held in Baku. Their legal representative, attorney Siranush Saghatelyan, stated that the detainees have been held in complete isolation for nearly 3 months with no independent access. Saghatelyan, president of the International and Comparative Law Center and executive director of the Armenian Legal Center, also revealed that the actual number of Armenian prisoners could be as high as 80. She criticized Azerbaijan's refusal to acknowledge responsibility for forcibly disappeared individuals and highlighted the absence of any independent international body able to verify the prisoners' whereabouts. Member of the European Parliament Fernand Kartheiser has urged the European Commission to send EU representatives to observe trials of Armenian detainees in Baku. He highlighted that Azerbaijan's closure of the International Committee of the Red Cross Office cut off independent monitoring, with reports of worsening prisoner health and politically motivated charges. Kartheiser called for urgent medical assessments and a clear timeline for EU action and public reporting on Azerbaijan's compliance with international obligations. Armenia's Minister of Labor and Social Affairs, Arsen Torosyan, met in Belgrade with Turkey's Minister of Family and Social Services, Mahinur Ozdemir Goktash, who is known for publicly denying the Armenian genocide and was expelled from her Belgian party in 2015 for this stance. Goktash's expulsion was based on her refusal to recognize a genocide, which her former party deemed incompatible with their principles. This meeting, alongside Armenia's recent rejection of a bill to criminalize genocide denial and earlier government statements deprioritizing genocide recognition in foreign policy, signals a troubling shift in Armenia's diplomatic stance. The parliament's refusal to pass the law sends a clear message to Turkey and Azerbaijan that Armenia is willing to compromise on fundamental historical truths. It also signals to the international community that Armenia will not legally defend what it demands diplomatically, effectively treating genocide denial as a legitimate opinion. Critics argue that this marks an abandonment of the principles enshrined in Armenia's Declaration of Independence and represents a gradual erosion of the nation's memory, credibility, and sovereignty under the current regime. A powerful protest took place in Yerevan as veterans of the Artsakh Wars, including participants of the 44-day war, left their military medals and honors on the steps of the government building. These medals, awarded for their courage and sacrifice in defending the Armenian nation, were returned in protest against what the servicemen described as the authorities' anti-state and anti-national policies. Armenia International Airports has announced a $500 million expansion of Yerevan Zvartnots Airport to handle surging passenger traffic, which now exceeds 5.5 million annually. The decade-long project will double the airport size, add a new terminal, increase boarding gates from 6 to 16, and introduce biometric passport control. The announcement comes as Turkish Airlines signals interest in launching regular flights to Yerevan, following recent Armenian-Turkish talks on cultural cooperation and joint infrastructure projects. In a major policy shift following sustained pressure from the Congressional Armenian Caucus and Armenian American Advocacy, the Trump-Vance administration has announced support for the return of ethnic Armenians to Nagorno-Karabakh. In a September 25 letter, the State Department confirmed that the U.S. is encouraging both Armenia and Azerbaijan to facilitate this return, while also monitoring trials of Armenian detainees in Baku and calling for the protection of Armenian heritage sites in Artsakh. The Armenian National Committee of America welcomed the move, calling it a response to months of grassroots advocacy, including over 100,000 messages to Congress and in-person outreach to more than 400 offices. The policy aligns with a bipartisan letter signed by 87 members of Congress urging a protected return of displaced Armenians and backing the Swiss Peace Initiative for international mediation. The Armenian National Committee of America announced its opposition to H.R. 5632, warning that the bill legitimizes Azerbaijan's ethnic cleansing of Artsakh while ignoring critical issues such as the illegal detention of Armenian POWs, the right of displaced Artsakh Armenians to return under international protection, the destruction of Christian cultural sites, and the ongoing occupation of sovereign Armenian territory. The ANCA criticized the bill's narrow definition of aggression as whitewashing Azerbaijan's prior attacks and warned that vague provisions about sanctioning those who undermine peace could suppress democratic debate within Armenia. Congress should be advancing a real, enduring peace based on justice, the ANCA stated, not legitimizing Azerbaijan's genocidal gains or rubber-stamping dangerous concessions forced upon Armenians at the point of a gun. This Saturday, October 11th, the Armenian National Committee of America Eastern Region Endowment Fund will hold its 19th annual gala at the Ronald Reagan Building in Washington, D.C., hosted by the ANC of Greater Washington. The event supports outreach to 36 Armenian national committees serving Armenian American communities across 31 states. The evening will bring together Armenian Americans, allies, and community leaders to celebrate achievements, honor dedication, and strengthen commitment to the Armenian cause. Awards such as the ANCA Eastern Region Freedom Award and the Vahan Kardashian Award will be presented to individuals recognized for their outstanding contributions. More than a celebration, the gala is a vital fundraiser that supports ongoing advocacy efforts, ensuring Armenian American voices remain strong nationwide. For tickets and sponsorship opportunities, visit givergy.us/ANCAER 2025. Our guest tonight is Hovhannes Ishanian, a committed human rights activist and a member of the National Civil Union Hayakove. We're pleased to welcome him as we take a closer look at the current state of human rights and freedom of speech in Armenia. Good evening, Mr. Ishanian.
Good evening.
The political group that came to power in 2018 had previously claimed that human rights and freedom of speech were being violated in Armenia. In your opinion, has the situation in these areas improved or deteriorated under the current administration?
Well, it is impossible if all power is concentrated in one person's hands, and it is due to the constitution. It is impossible to talk about human rights, because if there is no power balance, whoever will be on the power, if he or she has the law enforcement, the courts, the parliament, he or she can do whatever he wants. And if he does whatever he feels is right to do, then you are going to have this amount of human rights violations that we are seeing in Armenia.
Understood. Recently, Archbishop Mikhail Ajapahyan was sentenced to imprisonment for views he expressed during interviews. We are also seeing a growing number of criminal cases being initiated based solely on statements made in the press or on social media. In parallel, high-ranking government officials have filed multiple lawsuits against media outlets, often demanding substantial monetary compensation. Despite these developments, Prime Minister Pashinyan continues to describe Armenia as a bastion of democracy. From your perspective, what is the real state of freedom of speech in Armenia today under this administration?
Well, it's not a freedom of speech, it's a silence of speech, and it's not about only archbishops, it's about human rights defenders, it's about philanthropists, it's about lawyers. We've seen the head of the legal advisor of legal international affairs, Dermeyan, who gave an interview answering whether Armenia should obey arbitrary court's verdict or not. Of course, he said Armenia has to obey. And Pashinyan said that I am the government, and which means I am the law, I am the rule, and no one can say any opinion which contradicts mine. And after a day, Liparit Dermeyan was fired. And we've seen Samvel Karapetyan, the billionaire and philanthropist, who protected his church, saying that if no one is going to protect the church, we will protect it in our way. And after that, Pashinyan not only arrested him, but he wrote on Facebook ordering the law enforcement to arrest him. So we deal with a situation where one man himself defines him as a law. This situation was similar to Adolf Hitler's Nazi Germany. And we are living in that reality now, where for protecting your religious organization, you can be arrested.
We remind our viewers that our guest tonight is human rights activist and a member of the National Civil Union Hayakove, Hovannes Iskhanyan. Mr. Iskhanyan, international human rights organizations continue to publish ratings suggesting that Armenia is improving its standing in terms of democracy. Meanwhile, former representatives of so-called civil society remain largely silent. In some cases, we've even seen political persecution initiated by the authorities directly based on individuals' public statements. Given this context, how would you assess the role and activity of these former civil society actors under the current administration?
This is not new for us. For 7 years, Nikol Pashinyan and his party were violating all the articles, almost all the articles of the European Convention of Human Rights and Human Rights Declaration. If you go and start to read, you can bring the examples that he violated for this particular article. And meanwhile, PASE and other organizations, international organizations, were praising this government as a democracy. Pashinyan was arresting judges because they didn't act in favor of him, and he was arresting them. Pashinyan called people to block judges. Still, they were praising him. They were calling him, Armenia is a heaven of democracy in post-Soviet country. This is a direct quotation. And this is why actually I myself rejected the verdict in favor of me in the European Court of Human Rights, because you cannot stand with a family where the values are to protect the human rights, but they are doing vice versa. We understand that it is not about human rights, it is about whether you are against Russia, Iran or not. If you are against Russia and Iran, then we can say that you are a democratic country. If you are with them, then your elections, your press, everything is free. So, and Pashinyan, of course, understands this quite well, and he's playing with this with a European family. And of course, it's going to be worse and worse for the European values, because it means that they gave up, they surrendered the values in favor of attacking Russia.
Mr. Oskanian, thank you for sharing your insights. That's all for tonight's broadcast. Thank you for joining, and don't forget to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and X. Good night.